Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, no, it's not time to play Where's Dave Today, although I guess we could play a really brief version of Where's Dave Today. Today is April 29th. It's a Monday. And Dave is in West Alexandria, Ohio, little town, I'd say less than 1,000 people, in west central Ohio, a little ways west of Dayton, just about 7 miles east of Eaton, Ohio, which is where I will be playing next this Friday, May 3rd, at a little joint called Taffy's. I believe I start at 7 o'clock. So that's where Dave is today, but I really don't want to talk about where Dave is in the physical sense. Today I want to talk about where Dave is in the spiritual sense, where Dave is in the musical sense. I want to philosophize a little bit. We'll see how this goes. Had a great gig last night in Norwood, Ohio, suburb of Cincinnati. Group calls themselves the Queen City Balladeers. I believe it's sort of a folk music society for the Cincinnati area. They've been in existence for a long, long time. And they do this concert series in the basement of this church, the Zion United Church of Christ, I believe it was, in Norwood, Ohio. And I was their honored featured guest last night, and the audience was just amazing. They were just with it from the first note to the last, and it was really an honor and a privilege to be there. And it just got me thinking. We did a little songwriting workshop before the concert. About a dozen people in attendance to that. And we talked and kind of answered some questions and just sort of, it was a conversation really more than a lecture or anything like that. And it was interesting, and so it all just got me to thinking, and so I thought I would try tonight, to just sort of expound on some things that are on my mind about music and writing and life. If you're not familiar with my work, I certainly encourage you to become so. On this channel, David Singley Music, here on YouTube, you can listen to a lot of my music. I'm fortunate enough to have a friend who's a fabulous filmmaker named Joe Brandmeier. And Joe's made a lot of really great videos for a lot of my tunes. And they're fun to watch while you're listening to the music. And of course, you can find me on all the digital streaming platforms as well. And what you'll hear and what you'll hopefully take in from my music is not about style. I hope it's about substance. Stylistically, I'm all over the map. You know, I was born in 1962. I grew up in the 1970s at a time when, and I was the youngest of 4 children, at a time when, you know, everything was available on the radio, on TV. You know, there was jazz on TV. Not a lot, but some. I listened to country music. I listened to rock and roll. I listened to pop. I listened to everything. I listened to the stuff my parents listened to. I listened to everything. And to me, it was all good. It was all music. It was all kind of the same. And so when I make my own music, I don't really think in terms of genre or style. I'm aware of it. Certainly, I'm not blind to it. So as I'm writing something, it starts to present itself to me as to what it's going to be. And then what it's going to need when it comes time to produce that song as a record. So I'm aware of that, but I don't really pay it very much mind. And the journey is definitely not about the style. It's not about the penumbra. It's not about the sheen, the gloss, the glitter. My lyric writing is hopefully at once personal and global. That's kind of what I strive for. I strive to sort of speak to global issues or speak to just the, human nature through my own personal experience, and hope that others will recognize themselves in what I write about. I figure that's the best way to go about that. I don't know if it is or not. It seems to work for me. It brings me satisfaction, and it brings me a lot of satisfaction, as I did last night, to perform that music in front of a very receptive, open-minded, open-hearted audience. It's interesting to me, the both writing and performing process, and the whole process of putting that music out in front of an audience and then dealing with the feedback that happens, whether there's a lot of it or a little bit of it, or whether it's positive or negative or neutral or whatever. Sometimes for a performer, I honestly think that positive feedback can be more harmful than negative feedback. You get strokes for doing a certain thing, saying a certain thing, singing a certain way. And then there's a temptation to do more of that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it gets in the way from, the making of the art, let's say, and the expression that is to be had in the art of music. I know for myself, the music making process is personal, and it's kind of selfish. I make the music for myself first and foremost. It has to interest me. It has to feel like it holds up in my head and in my heart. Because if it doesn't, and Lord knows I write lots of tunes that don't see the light of day. If it doesn't, then it's just going to live in my notebook. And I think, as most writers will tell you, someday I might plunder a few lines or a verse or something out of one of those songs and say, oh, I liked this part right here. Maybe I'll borrow it for another song. But I really try to stay true to whatever I think the song is, or whatever I think the song is trying to be, and not let my ego get in the way of what I think the song ought to be, or what I think others might like, or, oh, people will like it better if I do this or if I do that. I can already see, and I'm really early in this game of being an artist, solo artist, but I can already see the danger inherent in that. So I try really hard to make sure that the decisions that I make, both in the writing process and in the record production process, are really based on what I feel like the music's needs are, and not what I think the audience's response would be if I did something a particular way. So I make the music for myself first and foremost, and then I hope that an audience will appreciate it and enjoy it. But to be honest with you, if they don't, so be it. It's easy to say, it's hard to do. And there are some performances that are better than others, some performances that are more well received than others. And, I'm human, just like anybody. And to give a performance in which the audience is pretty ambivalent, or just not really even paying much attention, it's hard. But I just use it as practice, both for the performing itself and for the practice of reminding myself of why it is that I'm doing this. And it's self-exploration. It's, the culmination of a lifelong dream. It's those things, first of all. And then, whatever happens from that, happens from that. It seems a little funny to talk about success at this point in time, where, for me, 50 people is a big audience. But as far as I'm concerned, I've already succeeded. I'm already a success. It doesn't matter if I play for 50 people or 15 people, 100 people. It really doesn't matter. As long as at least some of those people in attendance are really getting something out of the performance. And I really mean that mostly emotionally. I think that's the biggest reason that I made the switch from being an instrumentalist and being a guitar player for hire to being an artist and writing songs with lyrics and singing and taking voice lessons, Heidi Judy. And just really exploring that side of things, and is to really be able to reach people, understanding that instrumental music is all fine and well. I love it, but the fact of the matter is that as soon as you write words and as soon as you open your mouth and start singing, more people understand the music and they get it in a whole different way than they do if it's just instrumental without words. And as I say, it is something, if I'm honest with myself, that I've really always wanted to do, but just never had the guts to do until just recently. So there's that. Just an exploration into, performing my own original material, what that's like. For a great audience like I had last night, and an audience that's just completely it's just not really interested in the least. And as I say, it's just I just look at it as a learning experience, a growth experience. To just, regardless, either way, just keep doing what I'm doing, because I know why I'm doing it, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like to anybody else on the outside. I know what it looks like inside, and I know what it feels like inside. And that's what really matters. And then if I can get that out to people and have it mean something to them personally, for them and their experience, then I'm satisfied. And last night I was really satisfied. It was interesting, some of the things that came up in the songwriting workshop. I thought, for whatever reason, just probably as a former teacher, that we would talk a lot more nuts and bolts. But that just didn't seem to be what the attendees wanted, which is fine with me. I'm there for them, so we'll talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I did nonetheless get in a fair amount about structure and about form, phrasing. But we talked also a lot, and it sparked a lot of ideas in my head about kind of why we do what we do, and what it is that we're trying to get across. One of the things that came out was there was an interesting discussion about emotion and being emotive in a song. And it's a tricky balancing act, because certainly without emotion, what good is a song if there's no emotion to it? But I've certainly experienced enough in my life hearing a songwriter performing an original song that's very emotive and has a lot of emotional energy, but finding myself after a minute or two really starting to lose interest and just kind of, spacing out and just not able to maintain my focus as a listener. And I think what that's about is that, as I said, there has to be a balance between the emotive and then just the practical aspects of writing a song and what that means. I took as an example last night a song of mine called Go Back Home, which is really emotive. And it usually gets a pretty heightened emotional response from some members of the audience. It's a song that, of any of my songs, people come up to me afterwards and tell me how much it meant to them. So I know that about the song. I mean, I know it from my own experience of it and in hearing of what other people's experiences of it are too. That having been said, what I was able to share with the attendees of that workshop was that I do recall in writing that song, being aware that that's what I had, was a really emotional song. But at the same time, being aware as I was writing it in the, I don't know, say 45 minutes that it took me to write it, that I had to be really careful that I didn't get lost in the feeling. Because I was still the writer and I had to mind my P's and Q's as a writer. Like, I remember there was a point as I was writing it, it's a verse-chorus song. It has 3 verses, double chorus on the end, which are pretty standard things. I remember at one point, though, as I was writing it, thinking that it should have a bridge. I like bridges. But by then, I'd already written 2 verses. I knew it was going to have a 3rd verse. And I just started doing the math in my head of, how many seconds each verse was taking, how many seconds a chorus takes. And I realized, it's going to be 3 verses, at least 3 choruses. Geez, you're talking about like 4 minutes, a little over 4 minutes. And I'm going to put a bridge on it too. And then a double chorus in the end and some intro, and it's going to be over 5 minutes long. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a slave to the clock, but I recognize the value of brevity, of keeping it simple, keeping it short and to the point. We can all think of examples of songs that are have been very successful and break that rule, if it's a rule, greatly, and they go on for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. So there are exceptions, but I think generally speaking, an audience member expects a song to be in the sort of 2 to 5 minute range, and if it's 5 or over, for my money, there's got to be a really, really good reason for that to happen. So I was just sharing with the workshop that was my experience in writing that song, of having to balance the emotion, because it was emotional for me to write it, because I realized, what I was talking about. I was literally talking about life and death issues and losing loved ones and mourning their passing. It's hard stuff. And I've been through it, and it brings up some really intense feelings. But at the same time, there I am trying to write and finish a song, and I have to stay mindful to the work that's involved in that. Otherwise, I get to the 3rd verse and I blow it. I don't write a very strong 3rd verse, which is like the payoff of the song. So I realized that I kind of had to, compartmentalize, feel my feelings, but at the same time, really be mindful of writing the tune and finishing the tune and paying the appropriate respects to this piece of work that I was creating and getting it finished and seeing it through to the end. It's just something for me to continue to think about. I offer it to any songwriters out there for what it's worth. That and $5 will get you an Americano. I just gave away my coffee order. I don't think I use my coffee order as a security question for anything, but there you go. I gave away my coffee order, Americano. A little bit of half and half, a little bit of sugar, not too much, just a little bit. All right, hey, 19 minutes. Let's see what YouTube makes of this. How many ads do you think they put in the middle? My money's on 2. Let's see what happens. So thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, private message me, for God's sake. I'll send you some sort of prize. I don't know what it would be, but I'll send you a prize if you've made it this long. And I should probably put some sort of trick question here at the end. Well, what's my favorite coffee order? There you go. What do I order when I go into a coffee shop? So send me that, and I'll get your info, and I'll mail you some sort of an empty matchbook, a broken computer cord. How's that? All right, enough of me. Have a great rest of your day, your week, your month, your life. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. God knows we need it. And I'll see you later.